Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast with Mike Trainer, Jay Jules, and John Depot. Hey, what's up, Giant fam? Welcome to the Big Blue Offensive Podcast. I am Mike. That is Jules. He's still in Florida drinking a land shark. That is John. If you guys are watching on the YouTube video, like just tune in to watch Jules, what he's doing. And John's in like some kind of coming to America robe, so might as well tune in.
I brought out the kingship of the podcast. I got the fucking Versace fucking bathrobe on just to celebrate.
Nice. Look at that shit, huh?
See, he's already in vacation mode.
I'm in my new address in Florida, drinking land sharks, and John's already in vacation mode. So you can tell where this podcast is headed.
Yeah, it's like it might be a depressing episode, man. There's no more football, man. We had the Super Bowl on Sunday. Now it's no more football. I mean, we're still gonna have a lot to talk about with all this combines, and the draft is gonna come up again. We'll probably do an 8-hour draft night like we did last year. But guys, like I hope you guys had a good time on Super Bowl Sunday. I know I did.
Listen, Super Bowl Sunday to me was actually relaxing. Can you believe that? Relaxing. I fucking started off by going out without a West Palm for the first time because I was mainly just up in the Jupiter area for the most part. I went out in West Palm on Saturday night, watched the UFC fight, made friends down there. It was crazy. Stayed out with these motherfuckers till like 3 a.m, rooftop bars. So when I came back and woke up for Super Bowl Sunday, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of hungover.
Super Bowl started at 6:30.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. I'm just saying. I just knew that by like 3 o'clock I was going to start sobering up, and that's when the hangover would kick in. And I figured, all right, fuck it. By then I'll just crack open another beer and let it go again. So
of course,
I was pretty much sleeping by like 12:30 on Super Bowl Sunday night.
How was your Super Bowl, John?
Honestly, man, it was fucking great. I spent the morning. I had to go to Staten Island with my brother, help my cousin with some things in on my aunt's house, clearing some shit out. And I don't know if you guys remember back in the day for Nintendo 64, there was a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. I don't know if you guys remember that game. It was like the first game that we like crossed the lines. It's like a drunken cartoon, like squirrel. You guys looking at like crazy.
No, I mean, I've had Nintendo 64. I just remember playing like the sports games on it. I don't think I played anything else besides sports games.
It was this fucking hysterical game where it's like just a drunk squirrel, his girl gets fucking taken, and then you just go around. But it's an hysterical game. It was nostalgic for us because we played it when we were kids.
I'm gonna play that shit right now.
So, bro, it's so funny. So, I found it on eBay and I bought it, and then I had to go to Staten Island, so went to go try it out on his Nintendo. So we were fucking playing N64 for an hour. It was nice to be nostalgic. And then we get home, relax, got the fucking Super Bowl on. And I know, Mike, I mean, me and you ended up with the same numbers, 3-0.
Yeah.
The first half. I was like, oh, it's the first time I ever fucking really gambled and won on anything. I don't really gamble. Then an hour and a half, 2 hours later, boom, we hit the fucking final. And listen, I was really
all you 3-0 motherfuckers, all right?
I was fucking 3-0. I was like, fuck, I don't want Odell to win. But on tomorrow, I'm going to be getting a stack of fucking $100 bills. I'll be very fucking excited about it.
Fuck the 3-0, yeah, right? That shit should have been the 4-0, all right? It cost me a couple grand. Fuck that shit.
That missed extra point, man, in that earlier in the game. Like, man, what if at the time I was pissed, but then I was like, man, it's funny how things just work out in the end, man, for us.
Fuck you.
Yo, shout out. Like,
I saw that missed extra point. I looked and I was like, yo, this is going to somehow come back to fuck me, isn't it? I had 4-0 with the Rams. I brought the line down from 4.5 to 3.5. Okay, so fuck you with that extra point. Suck it. All right, but it's the football season. I was going to do a quick cheers. It's like a bluish tinted bottle for those of you who ain't looking on YouTube here. It's going to be kind of related to the Giants, but it's this first one here. There'll be another one, but this one is to the completion and end of the 2021-22 season.
Man,
so cheers to that. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams and winning a controversial Super Bowl. We'll get into that too.
Definitely went by quick this season, man. But John mentioned Odell before. Shout out to Odell because I just seen something that came on Twitter before that he was talking with Matthew Stafford on the sideline, like NFL films, and he's like, man, like Matthew Stafford's like, oh, like that pass, did you like it? He's like, Eli kind of threw it. It's like, I'm just playing. He's like, then he's like to Matthew Stafford, you should change your jersey to number 10 because you're throwing dimes out there. So you like shout out Eli Manning pretty much in a good way in the Super Bowl, which I was like, you know what, Odell, like, forget every bad shit I said about you after you left and being a baby and talking with Lil Wayne in fucking interviews. Like that kind of made up for it. I'm glad he won the Rock. It sucks that he got hurt, but it is what it is.
So just the reference to number 10 is how he included Eli Manning into this, or what was
it? He says Eli's name. Yeah, he said his name.
Yeah, because he goes, yeah, Eli threw it a little bit, like made a gesture saying like, Eli's pass was better. He would throw the ball, the slant better, just fucking with Matt Stafford. But, he could have said Baker Mayfield. He could have said somebody from fucking LSU, but our king, Eli Manning, was called by name. So as much disdain as I have for Odell Beckham, he did get a couple of brownie points back for me for saying that about
he sure did. It warmed my heart, Odell. Warmed my heart.
Listen, and he was going off at 700 to 1, 7,000 to 1. So I threw a quick little bet on him to win the MVP. And when I saw him catch that first pass and then the fucking touchdown, I was like, yo,
he was on his way. He was on his way.
He scored that second touchdown. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be up a couple of $1,000. Like, this is going to be amazing. Yep. And then I see this fucking asshole. It looked like I was watching the Ace Ventura and Ray Finkel inches out and shit. And the dude he can't spin the ball. I was like, I never seen this shit. I was like, what is that?
The win.
At the time, you're like, all right, look, they just literally scored on 2 of the first 3 possessions. I'm like, bro, I'm going to be rolling. I don't got to worry about this shit. I'll hit it another number combination on my other set. And no. Not to mention, because you mentioned this shit to me, Mike, and for those of you that are listening and don't know, and maybe didn't bet this way, Caesars was offering what they call like a Super Bowl boxes, but you can pick the numbers, right? You were telling me about this, Mike. Yep. And it put me on, and I was all in on this thing. So in other words, when you do Super Bowl boxes, there's 100 different boxes. You put your initials, your name, or whatever on it, and then numbers are randomly drawn, and however those numbers match up are what's considered your numbers for the game. And as long as either the single-digit number or the last digit of the double digits matches your numbers, you win that box, you win that amount for that quarter. And that's how those boxes won. That's what John and Mike were talking about earlier. For those of you who never have done it,
everybody's done it.
I was just saying, you never know. Listen, look, my sister's done it for like 20 years. She was actually running one for her office pool and was calling me up every quarter to find out who won. And I was like, yeah, I told you already. Like I said, I explained it to you. And the funny thing was, her and I had reverse numbers. So she had like the Bengals 3 and the Rams 4, and I had the 4 and 3 the other way. So I'm like, so if 4-3 comes out, one of us wins. You get it?
Right.
Still got a call in the third quarter. But anyway, Caesars was letting you actually pick your numbers.
I did a bunch of them.
Yeah, dude, listen, because 0-0 was just a relevant number from a couple of seasons years ago with the 49ers. And long story, I was drunk and I kept yelling 0-0. But, so I had to play that combo, which, by the way, if the Rams, when they had the ball, they went for the 4th down on that previous drive before they fucking punt, go down the fucking field and score, and then give me one more touchdown. Well, the final score is 0-0.
One more.
And that shit was playing out like 70-1, dude. I fucking hated that Super Bowl, all right? Because it was pissing me off. I said to my brother, I was like, yo, at the beginning of the day, he's putting in the bets because I'm down in Florida and I can't put him in. So I gave him my login info and everything. And I'm like, bro, I should just buy that line down to like 2.5. Just buy the line down to 2.5. He's like, yeah, but you're going to be paying like minus 170 for it. And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fine. Make it 3.5. And like, God forbid I fucking would have just listened to myself. And he's like, yeah, but you only would have made like $150, $300, $200. I'm like, yeah,
would have made something.
But I wouldn't have lost either, Dick. Like fuck. I just would have
had something. The bet was betting the Rams money line and taking the Bengals +4, or 4.5, or whatever you got it at, and you would have won both bets. I knew the Rams.
Your double up on that would have came through nice.
Well, I knew the Rams were going to win late when they were down 0-6. Remember, the score was 0-6, pretty much, like for betting purposes. Yep. So I knew the Rams were going to come down and score a touchdown. So I bet the live wager right there, the Rams.
What time in the game did you bet that live wager?
The live wager, as soon as they were down 0-6 and they were driving.
So right after the Higgins bullshit touchdown where he grabbed Jalen Ramsey's fucking face mask, and
exactly.
That should have never happened in the first fucking play.
How do you not see Jalen Ramsey go flying back 5 yards? I mean, come on, man.
You see his helmet turn and twist. Like, what do you think? He just did that? Like,
the game's a blowout.
At one point, he was looking for the ball, then all of a sudden decided to take his eyes off the ball because he wanted to make a no-look catch. Like,
the game's a blowout. The game's a blowout with there. It's fucking bullshit because that game would have been over right there, right before the start of the half, because the Bengals couldn't move the fucking ball. They just couldn't do anything with that offensive line. They just looked terrible. I mean, Donald, I don't know how he didn't get the MVP. He should have got the MVP, not Cooper
Got
Kupp.
money on him too, though.
That's why. That's why you fucking blew it.
Better than Kupp, so I was hoping Donald won, bro. Crazy?
Donald just had that monster game, and he came through on that 4th and 1 where he just, God, man, he made the dude look like a fool. And he just, he threw him down. And I tell you, man, I give it to Joe Burrow. He plays with a lot of heart, man. He tried to get rid of that ball, and I thought he almost made that play to that running back. I'm like, dive, motherfucking dive if you want to win this game. But he didn't. Thank God he didn't. And, man, it was a great game, man.
Just kind of break down like the actual game itself. I don't understand. Mixon was actually running pretty decently against the Rams. He was having a good game. I think he finished with like 75 yards of total offense, right? Or
he had a nice
total rushing, Huh?
He had nice runs.
He had some nice but they completely went away from him in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, they did.
What
about earlier in the game when it was like 4th and 1? Why didn't they punt? Like, just go for it. Don't give the Rams that position right there. Like, you just started the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm like,
especially when they're inside of their 50. Yeah, I was so afraid the Rams went down and put it down their throat on that one.
Holy shit. Like, it's just like, maybe that's like a rookie coach being in there. Maybe like he's just like so hyped up.
Trying to mix and match, trying to be aggressive, trying to
I wouldn't have
his mentor, right? Don't forget,
I wouldn't have done it
that's
there.
his mentor in McVay, So like, it was definitely like a little bit of a, let me show up my mentor right there, that kind of play. I listen. I don't. And then look, we could get into it. And I know you kind of disagree with this, but I definitely raised my eyebrows because I think it was either last week or the week before I mentioned that podcast that I had been listening to, the football counselor, and he had the guy on that had written the book, the fix game or whatever it is, right? The fix is in, rather. Excuse me. And literally, he brought back some of that footage. Now, keep in mind that this footage was from November. That's when they did this podcast. And if you watch his more recent follow-up from the Super Bowl. And this is the one where you and I are going to get into this a little bit of a discussion here, because I think you find this call to have gone the right way, but we're going to get to that in a second. Basically, again, just if you didn't hear that episode, in November, the guy that wrote The Fix Is In, who talks about how all professional sports are fixed in one way or another. There's always a narrative that organization is trying to push so that they can get the ratings, that they can get the proper sponsors. And there's a lot of fucking like really interesting points. It's really good. I'm sorry that I forget the guy's name and I didn't write it down to like mention and give him his proper worth. But, The Fix Is In is the name of the book and it's the author. He has him on. And basically, the guy that does this, he's a big football fantasy guy, and he always talks shit about Odell Beckham. He's like, Odell sucks. They always overhype him. Like, don't take him on your fantasy team. Okay. The dude had 4 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. Like, goes on and on and on. So he starts doing that again, and the guy comes on and he goes, well, what you got to say about Odell? Yeah, he had 1 great catch, and it was a giant and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, he goes on saying that for whatever reason, here's Matthew Stafford, who's always a good quarterback. But when he was on Detroit, nobody ever gave a shit about him. And now all of a sudden, this guy is signed and goes over to LA, and he is the savior of the Rams. All right. He is legitimately going to like boost this Rams team to the next level, like Tom Brady did with the Bucs,
That's why I bet
last year. Yeah, well, but I'm just saying, but he's saying this in November, right? And don't forget, in November, Kyle Murray and the Cardinals were still in first place, right? So you got to go back to where this is relevant from.
I said in September. I don't give a shit what this guy.
Yeah, but then again, here's the point that he was making. He was like, no one gave a fuck about Matthew Stafford. In the NFL, he was never the face of the NFL. When the conversation came around, you never heard Matthew Stafford in an MVP conversation. You never heard Matthew Stafford as a top 10 quarterback. Sure, us fantasy nuts always might talk about him. You always could like grab him as a QB2 or something like that. Yeah. He would always put up decent numbers and have decent games. But if you take that fantasy element out of it, any other type of fan, especially anyone who's not a Giants fan, nobody really fucking followed Matthew Stafford unless you went to Georgia or your team was in the SEC and you remembered him from back in those days. But like the point is that all of a sudden he goes to LA and he's supposed to be this like God. He's like one of the most premier elite quarterbacks in the league all of a sudden. And like now all of a sudden, no matter who it is, Cooper Kupp has this sensational year. And here they go. And he goes, back again in November, he was saying that, look, I would be very surprised if the Rams don't end up making a lot of noise based on that solely alone. And then if you notice, as the feel-good stories started coming out, as the playoffs continued on, about how Matthew Stafford's wife came back from cancer and, all the players and Odell and he coming back there and hey, he's doing this, Von Miller on his last run. And, this guy might retire, and that left tackle that came out of retirement. Basically,
a lot of stories in LA. Yeah, I
There was
get
so
it.
many stories, right? And all of a sudden, there's all these stories, and you get down to this fourth, this fourth quarter, late fourth quarter play where they're third and goal. They're down 4 points because of a bobble snap by Ray Finkel, and literally, Cooper Kupp gets this holding penalty. Where I'm telling you, bro, yes, you're right. Maybe it was definitely a holding penalty, right? But the way that they were calling this game the entire Super Bowl, they weren't calling that shit. And then all of a sudden, for them to throw that flag and call holding with Cooper Kupp there, bro, that was like a ticky-tack call at that point, man. It was real close, dude. And
I don't know
you
about
could
that.
say, hey, they gave it back because of the Jalen Ramsey no call with Higgins, maybe. But other than that, dude, I see a lot of that shit going on all game.
Yeah, but that's the Jalen Ramsey thing. That was one missed call. They totally fucking blew. The one with Cooper Kupp, like they seen it and they called it. I mean, it was blatant. When I seen it live, I think I texted you this. When I watch it live, I'm like, oh, that's a hold. Immediately I saw it. I saw especially when it's obvious, when the ref's watching that, knowing that, all right, Cooper Kupp's going against a linebacker. Let's see what he does. And then once you see that, and then if there's the contact where he's just grabbing his jersey, not letting him go anywhere. I mean, you have to, as a referee, obviously they seen it, but they have to call it. They just can't swallow that up just because they were calling that game, the whole game that way. It's just when you're down there, they'll be replaying that, saying, oh, how do you miss that fucking call? So it's almost like, oh, you're trying to win it for the Bengals. You didn't fucking see the Jalen Ramsey bullshit happen. Now you're not just going to ignore this. So, I mean, you gotta go with what you see, man. So,
and again, it's exactly what you just said. It's the Jalen Ramsey goal because that was so blatantly missed. They had to call that. And again, I think you're right. You definitely were on to something there with the linebacker, right? Had it been a slot corner or a regular cornerback, and they had their hands on him like that, I don't think they call that. But because it was a linebacker, I guess because they feel like a linebacker is bigger and stronger, so him holding him like that is gonna create and mess up his route a lot more than it would with a corner there. I don't know. I don't even know if it was even that in-depthly thought of. But yeah, I mean, to me, at that point, I said, look, they gave him one back. You know what I'm saying? The Bengals are going to get the ball. Let's see if Broadway Joe Burrow could fucking do something here. And that's what it came down to in the end. But again, fuck Ray Finkel, whoever that holder was for the Rams.
The Jalen Ramsey call, that was definitely, or non-call, was definitely a big game changer, but or at least debatable. The other one, I don't know either on either side of the fence. You can't really make a case one way or another. Like, they called it a flag and you can't make a case against it. If they didn't call it, you can't really make a case for it. It was like one of those things that's just on the line, and based on the perspective happening in real time, they called it a flag. And I'm very thankful for it.
Yeah. I know you motherfuckers are.
Me too.
Funny
how life works out.
I was yelling on the TV, go for two.
I was just praying he just make the extra point at the end. I'm like, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
I had a Rams kicker 3 years ago, right, by the name of Greg DeLeg. When he ran out in the Super Bowl for a quick field goal towards the end of the game, that cost me over $100,000 because he fucking missed that stupid ass field goal. So I was very nervous, but hey, listen, they made it back. They're world champions now. I'm happy. Even that guy, the Jefferson, the other wide receiver, I think he had a baby 3 hours after the Super Bowl.
Well, no, I think it was during, almost right. She was in labor.
She held it in. She held that in like a champ. Man. My man He went into the after party real quick after the Super Bowl party. He's like, all right, I got to dip now. She's about to fucking pop this little guy.
My wife understands I was playing in the Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl's now over. I gotta go.
Now Odell's wife or girlfriend is having a kid soon, so now he's gonna be. It sucks for Odell, man. Now he's gonna have a kid. Nah, I'm just kidding. A torn ACL. It's fucking horrible, man. That's fucking rough. The same exact knee that he tore his ACL. He tore the same one.
Now, have you guys seen that the league, or I shouldn't say the league, the players, right, based on that Odell injury, have now started a petition to eliminate all turf fields throughout the NFL? That was something I read earlier today. You know what I'm saying? Obviously it's not Giant related, so it doesn't really pop up like that immediately to us. But yeah, that was something that's literally been going around. They started a petition to eliminate all turf fields in the entire NFL. Now, I don't know how you're gonna do that in domes. I guess you could do indoor grass nowadays, right? It's no longer 1960 anymore. I'm pretty sure we could do indoor grass if you had to, right? You know,
You're talking about that.
You go to a specific temperature and get it light if it needs to, I guess.
they were talking about this on BBKL. They will pick off live, the Giants in-house podcast, and they were saying that like with the indoor stadiums, this is a couple weeks ago they were talking about it. That they used to use those like trays essentially, and they'll make a field up of trays. They bring them outside, grow the grass, bring it back inside. But for whatever reason, apparently it's very, very difficult to make those work well through the course of a season. And given the fact that our stadium is used as much as it is because there's two teams in the NFL, plus it's used for a host of other different events, it would be a very, very difficult thing to do it. And I'm sure that goes the same for a lot of other stadiums as well. They're the NFL. They make fucking ridiculous money. So if they really wanted to do it, then when there's a will, there's a way. You know, just have 2 fields worth of fucking grass. I mean, how much does grass really grow?
You're getting to the point now where it's almost better off you're playing on blacktop. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy, all these injuries.
It's the combination of the turf, and I think just the way the new way that athletes are training. Because you go back 20, 30 years ago, and before that, injuries were never even close to the way they are now. And the game was a lot more violent. So you'd think the violence would lead to more injuries, and that just wasn't the case. So I think it's just because, you know, the old school fucking push-ups and fucking pull-ups, maybe there's something to it as far as like, instead of those like, you know, micro emotions that they're working on, it just makes for a more fragile, you know, athletic body.
Or too many squats.
There's definitely things I have to look into.
Yo, but why the grass? Just make that shit like a dirt field. How sick would that be? If so certain teams have like a dirt field. There's no grass. That shit is dirt.
I wouldn't mind that.
Right? Like, yo, you go to the dirt bowl. And like on a dry day, you see that shit kicking off like whirlwinds and shit. Like, yo, that'd be kind of cool.
The domes
like
ruined
that's
it.
like those video games where you like invent the field and shit.
The domes ruined this whole NFL. They really did. They should have just kept it outdoors like it was back in the day, and maybe you wouldn't see all these soft tissue injuries, man. It could be like the workouts, like John was saying. It could be like too many fucking squats nowadays, too many fucking exercises with your legs. It's almost like you're wearing down your body by all this working out you're doing in the off season. But I mean, who knows, man?
Maybe running too many laps during practice. Oh, that was a day.
I'll get there. Oh, that's the shot. But anything else about the Super Bowl, guys, before we take a break, and then we'll talk about the Giant coaching staff?
Man, fuck this Super Bowl. The only thing I won was Cooper Kupp winning the MVP. Fucking Ray Finkel. I'm good.
I will say this. Today at work, I was in the home of a Cowboys fan, actually. Sitting there with a Cowboys blanket on his lap. It was a little disheartening, but he did buy.
Peed on it.
Good for him. But we were talking about it. We were saying, like, you know, I feel like every year we say it, like, oh, the NFL playoffs, you know, better is the best we ever had, this and that. But you got to say this year, the amount of close games, the amount of overtime games and wild finishes that we've had, if they are fucking influencing these games, and as a conspiracy theorist myself, I definitely believe that there could be and probably is an element of that to the games. They put out a fucking fantastic product, bro. It's exciting to watch these games, man, especially when you know what's on the line. They fucking got this shit down to a science.
If you're watching games and you feel like on the verge of having a heart attack, but you really don't have a heart attack, then you know it's something good that the NFL is doing. Yeah, it's like cocaine. It's like right there. It's like get you right there at that one point, man. Then you go crazy about it. I love football. I love gambling on it. It's fucking so much fun.
I'm as big a Yankee fan as you'll find, and it just does. There's no comparison in any way, shape, or form. You know, you sit there and watch a baseball game, like even like, you know, I got a 2-1 game going into the 8th inning, hanging on every pitch. It just nothing that compares.
Not the same.
NFL.
It's not the same.
No, listen, and you know what? Just to kind of add to that, like literally, I used to tell people when I was bartending, I would work in this like area that was like very, you know, touristy and everything else, and there'd be a lot of Europeans that would come in and out, and we get into talking about different sports in America versus European sports, and I would always tell them, look, and especially back then, you know, the Yankees were coming off of those back-to-back World Series and all that kind of shit, right? You know, it was like early 2000s and all. But, you know, I say, like, I'm a bigger Yankee fan maybe than, you know, as all my sports teams. Like, I grew up, like, always being the Yankees. It was the only team that, like, my entire family agreed upon, you know, like, they you know, there's Jet fans in it and all that shit. So that's why I can't be unanimous with the Giants. Right. But even with that said, I would tell them all the time, I said, but my favorite sport is football. And they would sit there like, wow, how's that possible? How's your number one team in one league in a different sport and all this kind of shit. And to tell you the truth, I could go watch a high school championship football game and get into it. I couldn't watch college baseball for the World Series to save my life. That shit bores the fuck out of me. Even if it's game 7, it better be like the 9th inning or some shit. I ain't tuning into that nonsense, And that's the difference right there. That's it.
Who's watching the Little League World Series? There's just got to be a group of pedophiles. That's not it.
I was gonna say I like watching high school girls volleyball, but I'm gonna change it to college college volleyball.
They're 18 now, Michael.
So I'm gonna keep it that way. So college women's volleyball. If you ever catch it on ESPN, you
can watch high school football because you just watch the guys play football, okay?
But listen, anyway, before I get any more trouble, I'm gonna take a quick commercial break, and we'll all be right back with the BBO NYG podcast to talk the new Giants coaching staff. We'll be right back. All right, we are back on the BBO NYG podcast. Guys, what do you think about this new coaching staff? Does one of you guys have the list, or you want me to go through the list of names and we'll each have like a little tidbit what we like about them or don't like about them?
Go one by one.
All right, so
do that, man. Go through the list. Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we talked well about the coach for a while. All right, but one of his first hires was like Laura Young. She's the director of coaching operations. She's a woman, the first woman hired by the Giants. I was hoping to be a cheerleader, but listen, we got to start somewhere. So give it up for Laura Young, man. What do you guys think about her?
And listen, she comes from Buffalo. She's part of that Bills organization that's been, majorly turned things around. And you know what? Props to women in football. So it's about time the Giants got on board. They can't call us sexist. They can't call us racist. So we'll see what she brings to the table. I don't know much about it, to be honest, But, listen, he's been hiring the right people all along. So there's something there. They worked together for a few years. There's something with her. She's got something that he sees that's going to be very valuable to this team. And so be it. Let's bring it. I'm with it.
John?
Yeah, it's cool, man. I mean, I would imagine that you would probably have people who would prefer not to have the female in the room just because of the way it changes. Men usually talk a little bit disgusting around each other and a little bit more reserved when there's a woman in the room. So you got to respect how hard she had to have worked to get to the point to be respected enough to get that kind of a job. And she's been in the NFL for a couple of decades at this point. I listened to an interview with her. She knows what she's talking about, and fucking welcome, man. I don't care. You could be a fucking alien. I don't give a shit what you are. Come to this team, help this team turn it around, and fucking compete for Super Bowls again. You could be a fucking Martian. I don't give a shit.
Listen, they trained a chimpanzee to fucking make good picks. I'd be with it.
Bro. Fucking salamander. A fucking platypus.
We put a little fucking jersey on that motherfucker. He swings from the tree, eats a banana. He's like, yeah, let's eat this guy. This guy right here. Like, all right, let's do it.
Well, this is what you got to look forward to for some Giant fans, Laura Young, if you're listening. And also a little word of advice. Don't look down in the locker room. All right. Next one is our offensive coordinator, Mike Kafka, coming from the Chiefs. He worked with Mahomes. He worked with Andy Reid's coaching staff. I love this hire. I'm very excited to see what this offense is going to do.
Listen, and Kafka is a former quarterback himself. Right. He helped develop Mahomes. You have Dable, who helped develop Josh Allen. They like I said, they brought over we'll get into obviously the quarterback coach from Buffalo as well, but anyway, we'll get to him in a moment. But just continuing with Kafka, look, man, like they're putting the right pieces in place. And one thing that I said that I feel is a little bit different about this team than in the past coaching regimes, you have to probably go back to like Pat Shermer with this one, where he brought in that hot defensive coordinator to be the defense coordinator for them. But he had a guy that failed as an offensive coordinator. I can't think of his name at the moment, who was also going to be like the quarterback's coach. Like they were doing a lot of like old school shit, where here I feel like Dable's bringing in a team of young, talented guys. Some may be a little older, but whatever. But they're all guys that are thirsty to get that HC spot. They want to make their fucking side look so much better than the other, so that when everybody's talking, like Kafka's the guy, everybody's name is on the hot list to get a coaching job somewhere. And that's what I see with this guy, right? He's going to come in. He's going to bring in a little bit of that Kansas City type of flair and offense and Andy Reid type plays to match up with Dable and Buffalo's. Dude, I think that's going to be a sick combination. You're bringing two of the best offenses in the league all together with these minds. Dude, if this offense doesn't get better, then I don't fucking know what the Giants need to do.
It's just a hex at that point. I don't remember which podcast I was listening to, but it was today in between appointments, and what they were saying was that Andy Reid thought so highly of Kafka that he was really, really, really pushing hard to get Eric Bieniemy a job. That way he can move Kafka into the offensive coordinator role. He really, really didn't want to lose him, and once the Giants obviously offered him a job, he's not going to
Wow.
can't keep him here. But Andy Reid, and regardless, you cannot deny the guy knows offense. He thought highly enough about him that he was really, really fucking pushing for Bieniemy to get a job that way he can move him into the OC position. I mean, I don't know how you can't be excited with what this team still boasts on offense with the offensive minds that are coming in. I mean, bro, we watched those games in the beginning of the season, and it was pathetic what they were doing on offense, bro. It was so frustrating to see. The defense early in the year didn't play well. Then they got their act together, a few weeks in, whatever it was. I don't remember exactly. They turned it around. But just imagine if we actually had a 25-point offense through the course of the season. How much different this entire fucking feeling around this team would be right now. So you got out the one of the probably main reasons, this old school, just antiquated philosophy, and now you're bringing in the best of what the NFL world can offer. You have pieces of all of them. I don't see. You look at Tony Barkley, fucking Daniel Jones is a fucking good quarterback. I fucking to my dying breath, I will believe that. You get a couple of offensive linemen in here, man. And I'm not saying they're going to be 35 points per game, but the days of 14, 15 points a fucking game for an entire goddamn season, I think those days are behind us.
Let's hope it's over. But speaking on the other side of the ball, we got the defensive coordinator, Don Wink Martindale. This guy has one of the biggest beer bellies I've ever seen. I'm very excited.
Okay.
And mullet, baby. You got the mullet rocking.
He fits right in on the BB extra
Dave only got no six pack under his shirt.
Podcast. But listen, he's got some strength, man, behind those fucking bones too, man. He's a tough guy. He's gonna get the best out of his defense. He's gonna blitz a hell of a lot. He's gonna get pressure from different guys, not just the front four. He's gonna mix it up. I'm very excited about this move too. Great hire, 100%.
Yeah, listen, and you know what? I've been screaming from the sidelines for like the last whatever on this podcast, maybe year and a half or so, where I kept saying I could not deal with Pat Graham's soft coverage, his soft defense, his soft laid back, underneath, keep everything underneath, keep everything there, keep it in front of you, this and that, all that bullshit. Well, you know what? I'm either going to eat crow or I'm going to be fucking going like, yelling on top of the soapbox. I fucking told you so, because he's going to bring that style that I've been screaming at the Giants get for so long, with the blitzing and the coming at you and being aggressive. Look, are we going to get burnt on some big plays? Absolutely. But I also know that games like Atlanta and Washington and a few others this season where they were doing that soft shit towards the end of the game ain't going to happen, because you're going to be fucking coming after Matt Ryan and fucking and all these other players. So like I'm all for that. Now, on a quick side note, don't be surprised if especially with salary cap and what would be freed up if we do cut Bradbury. Believe it or not, Adoree Jackson fits better into his scheme than Bradbury does, because he's the more aggressive corner. He does a little bit better on that kind of man-to-man, locking it, leaving it alone type of thing. And you know what? Robinson did step up a lot towards the end of the year. We could pick up somebody. There's some quality corners in the top end of this draft. So I'm just telling Giants fans, don't be shocked if that ends up being one of our moves this year, where we end up seeing Bradbury go and we take a corner early on in the draft, because just to fill that void, and that fits a little bit more of Wink's style. So that's just something I'm gonna put out there as far as what I think could happen.
As you were talking, you inspired a thought. We Giants fans as a whole have obviously resented Joe Judge's conservative offensive style, and with Jason Garrett and all that stuff, and everybody hated it. When Patrick Graham was in Miami, I'm pretty sure that he ran a little bit more of an aggressive defense, a lot more man coverage and stuff. And that was the talking point when Patrick Graham initially took the job in with us a couple of years ago. I wonder if the conservative offense and the conservative defense was a result of what Joe Judge was looking for. And maybe Patrick Graham, obviously he's got to do what the head coach wants, or else he's not going to be there. I wonder if he just dialed back both sides of the ball to play like a just a slow, low scoring affair on both sides. That style of old school football, and maybe that's why Patrick Graham couldn't kind of unleash the defense as much as he wanted to. I don't know. I do wholeheartedly disagree with the Bradbury move, although he is owed some money and we can save a few $1,000,000. He's got to be replaced. So what are you going to do? You're going to use one of those those two top 7 picks on a cornerback? Possibly, but isn't there better holes to fill? Can't you figure out a way to restructure Bradbury's contract? Can't you just eat it for a year? I get the fact that he runs a more man coverage system, but bro, James Bradbury was an all-pro caliber player 2 years ago. He had spots where he was excellent last year. The whole team on defense played bad, him included, for a lot of portions of the year. But I don't know that Bradbury's past his prime at this point. I think the team just didn't play well last year. Maybe they just all fucking hated Joe Judge and there's no one said anything, and that's what it was. I don't know what it was. But I wouldn't – someone's going to reap the benefit of us getting rid of this guy. That's what I feel like. And we have him on the contract for at least another year. We're not going to be making any big splashes in free agency, regardless of what we do with the salary cap. And all these contracts were based off of were 3-year deals. So they're going into last year anyways. Is it the worst thing in the world to restructure his contract and have Bradbury for 2 years, next to Adoree Jackson for another 2 years, while you develop Aaron Robinson and Rodarius Williams and Julian Love and fucking Darnay Holmes and draft guys and supplement the roster that way? I don't know that any regime wants to come in, especially in this market with the literal -0 patience that we fucking have, and say, you know what, I'm going to strip all the good players of this team, start out having a 4 or 5 win season, and by the time I get to Christmas, everybody in New York's going to hate me anyways. I feel like they'd rather come out at least swinging, and then if it doesn't, then we have to fucking start making more manipulations. I really think this team's going to look a lot more similar to 2021 than people think. And Bradbury is one of those guys I think that's still going to be around the coming season.
I hope a lot.
But I'm putting off this too. I guarantee you that both Bradbury and Martinez aren't back. I think one of them is going to go. I'm not saying listen, Martinez has got a little bit more wiggle room as far as restructuring his contract, but I can almost guarantee you that if they don't both restructure their contracts, that one is definitely not going to be with us on 2022. That's one of my predictions early on. Just saying.
If I'm either one of them, especially Martinez is coming off of a major injury. You know what I mean? He's got a torn ACL. I mean, it happened early. I think it happened like week 2, week 3 or something like that. It was really early in the season, so he's way into his rehab part. Week 3. He's way into his rehab at this point already. I mean, that's what, late September, October, November, December, January. He's basically 5 months into his injury at this point. I can see more likely that he's gone, but again,
here's the thing you just got to keep in mind.
Football player.
Here's the thing you just got to keep in mind. At times, it has nothing to do with how good they could be and how valuable they were to the team or what type of person they are. They just become what they call cap casualties, where it's like, look, they're good, but we can get guys that are almost as good. Maybe it's a notch down, or according to PFF, they're an 80 and the next guy down is like a 77. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden, it saves the team $8-9 million. You know what? Like at the end of the day, if it's not that much of a drop off, you're not losing one of your top stud players. You have to put that into discussion, especially if you have an opportunity in the draft with the high picks that they have to put like one of these young kids that could be a stud in the NFL on that team, and you got him locked for the next 5 years. So that's what starts to come into play. It's going to be interesting to see what Shane does moving forward.
Well, it's going to be what Wink wants. That's pretty much what he's comfortable with, and then they're going to go from there, whether he's going to be a cap casualty or not. But guys, we're running out of time here, so let me just run through the quick list of all the other Giants that made the coaching staff, and then we'll talk about it after if you guys have anything to say about these guys. Thomas McGahee, special teams coordinator. Then you got Bobby Johnson, offensive line coach, and Tony Soprano Jr. Assistant offensive line coach. Woke up this morning. Hopefully he gets his line in shape. So those two guys are going to be well watched. And Shea Turney, he's a quarterback's coach. Andy Bishkoff, tight ends coach. Mike Rowe, wide receivers coach. DeAndre Smith, running back coach. You got Christian Jones, offensive assistant. John Ogrogu, inside linebackers coach. Drew Wilkins, outside linebackers coach. Jerome Henderson, defensive back coach. And this is not me. It's Mike Trayer, assistant defensive backs coach. So it looks like we're getting high praise from a lot of news outlets and a lot of media outlets and even fans saying how good this coaching staff is. And it's opening some eyes around the league. So maybe we got something to build here for the next few years, fellas.
Well, yeah, and then just to add on with the quarterbacks coach, as I was saying earlier, literally, he was part with Josh Allen in the rebuild of, the coming out party of Josh Allen. So now you're bringing in Kafka with the Holmes, Dable, and now this gentleman. Bro, they are literally building behind Daniel Jones. And since this is where I feel this is my moment to do this. I wanted to get into something about quarterbacks, but I don't want to interrupt John. I know he wants to say something about the coaches, but I definitely want to get to quarterbacks next. All right. So something I want to bring up about the NFL quarterbacks in general. But moving forward, Soprano Jr. is supposed to be pretty good. I mean, his father was decent. Unfortunately, he died of the heart failure. Had something wrong with the heart, and that's why his career ended earlier than it should have. But he was a hell of a mind, the coach. Bringing him in as an assistant, it just keeps continuously feeding on what I mentioned earlier. What I mentioned in weeks past was literally, how I think that there's a lot of young, good, quality coaches that are on this staff that all want to make names for themselves, right? When you hear of all the good staffs, right? You go back to Kyle Shanahan's father, right? Who was part of the Redskins, when they were the Redskins, let's be fair, right? Even though they're the Commanders, which is just atrocious. But anyhow, they had McVay, they had Shanahan Jr., they had, I don't know if it's Junior, but they had his son. They had LaFleur, they had a lot of these coaches that are all successful in the NFL. We're all in the playoffs this year, and even still McVay's protege was the one that he faced off against in the Super Bowl. So, when you put those steps together, if you can hold them, these guys are all trying to outdo themselves. And let's look at Wink, for example. He's probably the oldest of the bunch at like 52 or something. He's not even that old, but he's like the oldest of the crew. And here's Wink, who was starting to get that head coaching nods and was starting to get that name, his name in the mix. And then all of a sudden, boom, he has a bad year because of what, Mike? Injuries, right?
True.
And his defense gets a little shitted on over in Baltimore this past season. He has to be let go. And now all of a sudden, he's back there. Now he's going to be hungry as a defensive coordinator. He's going to make a statement. So you have all that on place. You have guys that want to step up. You have Dable who accepted this job and said, shit, the last three coaches have failed, have been out of New York in 2 years. I'm not going to be that fucking guy. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of coaches coming in here that they want to make sure this is right. You got a young GM in Shane. Dude, this is where it's right. We thought it was last year, but in all honesty, yes, Judge was saying the right things. He was a young guy, and you thought maybe he was going to bring that kind of attitude. But then he had guys like Garrett. He had Pat Graham. You had your boy Getty fucking Goof. You had all this shit going on where, even Freddie Kitchens and down the line, it was just an existence of guys who failed already in the NFL versus now where it's all hot commodities, all lined up, and they're all on this coaching staff. Dude, I'm pumped about it. I think this is right. I think it's finally fucking right. And listen, I'm not saying the Giants are going to come out and win 12 games this year. I don't even think they'll win 10. But you know what? This is where I'm starting to get that right feeling. They're making the right moves. I cannot wait till fucking free agency and the draft, bro. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I can't wait for the draft, man. I think you're right. It's hard not to be excited when you're getting the guys from where you're getting from. Joe Judge left a mark because of, I guess, his showmanship and the whatchamacallit in the opening press conference, and everybody in the market fell in love with him. But he was a special teams coach. You know what I mean? He didn't have any type of resume that you can fall back on and say, okay, this is why he is where he is. All of these guys, they're coming in with already having proven something in the NFL to some kind of great degree. I mean, if it wasn't for 12 seconds, Brian Daboll might not even be our coach. He might have just played and won a Super Bowl. If not for 12 seconds against the Chiefs.
13.
13 seconds. Excuse me. So So you have guys who are really accomplished, really young, and really want to make a name for themselves. It's hard not to be excited. Again, like everything else in life, luck plays a huge role in this, and the Giants have only really had bad. But hopefully, fucking that shit changes, man. And we're able to kind of see the full potential of what this should look like. Daniel Jones' full potential, Saquon's full potential, Andrew Thomas's full potential, the defense, Dable, everything. Just see everybody's full potential actually get realized, like we did with fucking Ernie Accorsi and fucking Eli Manning in that era with Tom Coughlin. That's what we need to see. Not Super Bowls, but the full potential of what they could be.
And well, that's it. That's our coaching discussion this week. Nice coaching staff we got. But I know real quick, Jules, you had like a quick little topic talking about the change of dynamics of quarterbacks between the AFC and the NFC.
Well, not so much the change in dynamics, but like just the sort of lopsided view of the quarterbacks that are in the NFL, AFC versus NFC, right? Because right now, let's face it, guys, you got to admit, like, man, pretty much, especially, and keeping in mind this, right? Obviously, with Tom Brady retiring, right? So that's a huge factor that the NFC has just lost, right? With the fact that we don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Maybe he stays in the NFC. Maybe he goes to the AFC. Maybe he retires. We still don't know what Rodgers is doing. That's currently the MVP of the league, and we don't even know if he's going to play in a Green Bay uniform next season. All right. So when you start looking at those things, it really kind of becomes like this sort of unbalancedness of where the premier quarterbacks are all in the AFC. I mean, Allen and Burrow and Mahomes and Lamar and Herbert. I mean, dude, it just keeps going. It's almost disgusting. Like there's so many so much talent there. Yes, you have Russell Wilson. And yes, people are going to talk about Kyler Murray, who's losing his mind and wants out of Arizona right now. You know what I'm saying? So the NFC to me, and obviously Stafford, who just won a Super Bowl, cannot not put him up there as well, of course, right? But and Dak Prescott had a great regular season with the Cowboys, all that bullshit, fine. But when you start to weed this out, Jimmy G might be in the NFC, but he might not be in the NFC. I know Mike get big on Trey Lance, but he's still an unproven commodity. I know you can say Justin Fields, but we don't know. Kirk, my favorite Cousins isn't even signed with Minnesota yet right now. So we don't even know if he's going to be playing in the NFC. We don't know who the Saints quarterback is. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty within that NFC conference as far as the quarterback position is concerned. And here's something that I want to say. Based on that, now, a lot can change, right? Rodgers could sign somewhere. Jimmy G could end up on another NFC team and could have a really good year, maybe. Maybe Jalen Hurts takes the next step, but I doubt it because I think he sucks and he's not going to be ever good for the Philadelphia Eagles. They need to wake up and realize it. Maybe Justin Fields takes another, maybe. But here's something I want to say, and that is today, February 15, 2022. My prediction is going to be this, that Daniel Jones will finish as a top 5 NFC quarterback this season. That's correct. Top 5 NFC quarterback this season. You can book that.
Why don't you put that on the tweet that out from the Giants Big Blue Offensive Podcast Twitter and let people go insane over that tweet. Can you handle that? So I just want to see people's reaction from number 5 quarterback. I mean, I agree, but it's almost like a trick question.
NFC now, because it puts him in the NFL as being a borderline top 12.
Right, but it's almost like a trick question.
There's going to be at least 7 guys in the AFC that you can mention, and then the 4 or 5 in the NFC, right? So it's going to be right. He's going to be right around 12, and I think that's fair. I think that is fair. I'm going to put it out there. I think it's fair because name to me 6 better NFC quarterbacks right now that are starting. You can't. All right. Fine. I already mentioned them. I said Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray.
Yeah, we know the names.
But it's the NFC West, and that's it. And
that's kind of it, bro.
Dak. You can say Dak because Dak's proven a lot more than on own time.
So that's the 4. That's the 4. That's it. After the 4, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to tell me Tyler Haneke. You're not going to sit here and tell me Justin Fields. Like I just said, Cousins isn't signed right now. Jimmy G isn't currently signed right now, so we don't know. Again, like I said, that's why I'm making this bold statement here in February 15th of 2022. In the next few weeks, it's going to change. There's going to be quarterbacks going to be drafted. Here's another thing that I wanted to add to that. I think that this is a time where you're sitting here telling me that this whole entire quarterback class is trash and it's going to be bullshit. You can go through every fucking year of the draft. There's always at least one quarterback that has a good NFL career. I'm not saying they're a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying they're making it in multiple Pro Bowls. I'm not saying they're winning Super Bowls, but it has a very good NFL career as a quarterback. And that's there. Do I think it's Pickett? Maybe, but you guys are Riddler and the guy from Liberty and all. There's tons of guys that are there. If I'm the Falcons or a couple of these other teams, because when you hear about these teams that are going to be drafting quarterbacks, all you hear about really and mainly is Pittsburgh, Denver, and maybe Carolina a little bit, right? That's it. If I'm these NFC teams, the Commanders, I can't stand that name, but I'm going to say it like every time I get a chance to.
Commanders.
The Commanders, all right?
Commanders.
All right? Because you're the Commanders, okay? Or you're Carolina, or you're Atlanta, or, a few of these other teams. Man, this is when you need to fucking strike. Bro, this is when you could take advantage of a draft that they're downplaying all these quarterbacks because somebody's going to be all right. Somebody's going to be pretty fucking good. I mean, you look at last year where everybody was like, oh, my God, you can't miss. There's so many quarterbacks. Well, right now, Trevor Lawrence didn't look that great. Granted, his team was terrible. Coaching, there was like an atrocity that happened in Jacksonville. Zach Wilson showed some flashes, so we'll see what he can do next year. Trey Lance didn't even fucking play. Justin Fields wasn't impressive. Mac Jones, all of a sudden, is the best of the class. And yet you're going to sit there and tell me that this class coming in is garbage, is no good? I don't know if I agree with that, man. And, I'm telling you, man, it could open up some things for a lot of teams. But at the same time, it's why I stand by what I had just said. And I believe that with all this coaching going around, obviously we're going to draft a heck of a lot of the offensive line. We're going to build a team. We're going to build a lot of different things. I got to be the one to say it because you two and John and Mike here are always the supporters, always the homers. So Jules will be the one that's the homer tonight. And he'll fucking go on record by saying that Daniel Jones will finish in the top 5 of the NFC conference as a quarterback this year. Book that shit.
Love it, Jules. You made Richard hard tonight. You got
it? Jesus.
I'm just saying. It's fucking and I feel like that goes to your original point of saying that there's like a dearth of good quarterbacks in the NFC. I think that just because of the circumstances around Daniel Jones, he would be mentioned in that breath with Kyler Murray and Matt Stafford and those guys. Those guys aren't fucking Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They're just really good quarterbacks, and I think Daniel Jones is a really good quarterback too. It's just the shit around him has just been fucking garbage since he stepped into this league. But you pick him up and on draft day, pick him up, drop him off on another team. He's in that conversation with all those young quarterbacks. He's got the talent. He's got all the fucking talent. And he's more fun to watch because he fucking runs faster than all those motherfuckers. So Could
you imagine Daniel Jones on the Cowboys? Fuck that, Prescott. Imagine Daniel Jones healthy against the
with that offensive line, bro. Pass the ball off, be able to get 4 or 5 yards a clip when you actually
their receivers and Zeke Elliott. Bro, they're loaded on offense, bro. Like, I bet you they beat the 49ers. You know what I'm trying to say? Like I think he's that guy.
We're on offense, Ed. We just need 3 offensive linemen. Get me 3 offensive linemen.
Woo! Let's pump the brakes for a minute. We don't know if we are. We might be loaded. We might be loaded.
You take Saquon, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, Darius Slayton. You're going to get some fucking rookie. They're going to be drafting a tight end probably in like rounds 3 or 4 this year. Sterling Shepard. You have that top 5 skill position players with Daniel Jones and a good offensive line. That's all you need to compete in this fucking league, bro.
Listen, guys, I won't be surprised, and it'll probably be later rounds. It'll probably be like rounds. What do we have? 2 4th-round picks, or maybe like the late 4th round, early 5th. We might even take another wide receiver. I know that seems crazy. Oh my God! Because listen, Dante Pettis isn't going to be around. John Ross is not going to be around. It's very, very, very possible. Certainly, Shepard's not around. all of a sudden now that wide receiver room that seemed so deep a year ago and so talented is now depleted. And then you have injury concerns with Tony and Galladay. It wouldn't shock me if the Giants end up drafting someone in the mid-draft as a wide receiver position.
We have enough picks. If they find somebody that is good for their scheme, like that whole story that was going around a week or two back. I don't remember exactly when it was, but Joe Shane or Brian, I don't remember what now. Who is the wide receiver in Buffalo?
Gabriel Davis.
He was their 4th round pick this year that went off with exactly. I think it was Dable who was like pushing for him, that he wanted a guy who could do this. Joe Shane was the one who like found some combination of them, and they fucking used the 4th round pick, not premium draft capital, and they got themselves a fucking player. You by all fucking means, go ahead and do it.
You know what it is? They had a vision. They had a vision of what they wanted in their team and what their offense to do, and they got the players to do that. It's pretty simple, man. That's football. But anyway, guys, before we go, I just want to shout out like the winner of the BBO NYG podcast.
Because that motherfucker got lucky, all right? And listen, it's funny, guys, that the last 2 seasons that I was paying so much attention to Buffalo, and now all of the Buffalo, like half their staff, is all part of the Giants. You see, it's just called intuition. But anyhow, let's get to this bullshit shit, because we would have bought down points. We would have won, Mike. That's all I got to say.
It's a shame we lost on that, but we took the Rams -4. And, that little extra kick and that bullshit fucking calls. But, we already talked about it. We would have been in first place, but we're not. We're in third. Congratulations, King Glue. He had ended with 17,785 points. Rob in second place with 12,162 points. So you guys are listening. You guys get T-shirts from the BBO NYG pod.
Gets to come on for a quick moment, right? He gets a little spot on the podcast.
Right.
Gets to come on. He gets to gloat a little bit how lucky he is. Because Mike, if we would have pushed, right? Let's just say that that Ray Finkel didn't screw up the extra point there, and we would have pushed. Would we have won?
I don't know. I'm not doing the math. I don't know how do you go back and do the math.
But I think we might have.
I mean, if they obviously took the Bengals, so we were taking the Rams, so we would have been sitting pretty. But listen, guys, you want some T-shirts and King Glue, you want to come on the podcast and talk a little bit, be our guest, and that's it for this week, I think.
Yeah, man.
By the way, happy birthday to Chris Farley, man. He would have turned 58 today. Chris Farley, man, really? One of my idols.
You ever see that song that Adam Sandler sang for him a few years back?
Yeah, I cried. I cried on SNL. Yeah, I cried.
Yeah, bro. I've seen that like 2-3 separate times. Each time, you just get a ball in your throat, bro.
You want to live in a van down by the river?
If I ever want to fucking cry one night, I just need to fucking turn that fucking thing on, man. That was fucking sad. Really nice gesture, though.
Yeah. Oh no, it was awesome. And you know what? That was the first time that Adam Sandler was back on SNL, by the way, because he had a falling out with Lauren Michaels, who's the producer, and like they let him back on because it was a tribute show, and they knew how close they were and that whole cast, and they allowed Adam Sandler on for that, and that's what he did. So even more hats off on that one.
Absolutely.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace for sure. Well, listen, that's it, man. That wraps up this episode. That's it. The football season has officially come to an end with the Los Angeles Rams being the Super Bowl champions of the 2021-2022 Super Bowl season. And then congrats. You know what? That's it. Stafford won. Odell Beckham won. There's a lot of Giants fans that are happy that he won, right? Look, it was good. I'm happy that McVay won. I love the fact that he's a young and upcoming coach. He's only in his 30s, man. Like, God bless that dude. It's going to be fun to see him coaching for the next, 30 years or so. So it's a good thing for the NFL. It was fun, even though I disagree with the fact of LA being full of celebrities and all that bullshit. And I think that's what part of that fan base is when it comes to it. But any Rams fans that want to come at me, you can come at me if you're a real Rams fan. I want to know a true Los Angeles Rams fan back from the 80s where Eric Dickerson or something was there, right? That's what I'm talking about, because those guys should be going bananas and enjoying the heck out of that Super Bowl. But anyway, with that said, listen, next up is going to be some guests. We always bring them in from this time during this whole part of the off season. Before you know it, it'll be, pro days and all the good stuff getting ready to combine. And then before you know it, it'll be the draft. So that's what's upcoming in the next few weeks. But for now, We're gonna tune out. You know you'll catch us next week for sure. All right. Hit us up at the BBO MYG podcast. That's where you find us on Twitter. That's the handle. And obviously the same thing goes for sure. The Big Blue Offensive. Or if you want to hit us up on an email. But for now, we're out. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace.